Darlings, it's Mummy, Sybil Bruncheon, and I'm coming to you from my little place out on Fire Island in Cherry Grove. This is my tourette for July 2nd, 2023. We're up on the upper balcony. This is the unit that we're in, but I'm up on the upper balcony. We've got a little snack cafe up here, which is quite lovely. It's very Grey Gardens, isn't it? It's kind of decay and delightful mixed with our little teak set here, and my Dusty Millers mixed with my marigolds. And look, the Dusty Millers are in bloom. There's the Great South Bay. And we're here on Bayview Walk, and I'm going to walk you down the stairs, if I can do it without breaking my neck. Mummy's getting old. This is all of our deck, and there's our little pergola over there with our snack area. There's our koi pond, which is quite charming, and I'm trying not to shake. I still haven't got a gimbal. I really have got to invest in a gimbal so that you don't feel like you're being filmed in an earthquake or something. Here's our yellow safety strips, and here's our entryway. Let me show you what we walk into. I always did my videos at bottoms up from out on the walk, and I would show you how you walk in and what it would look like. So here's Doctor's Walk. We're actually only a block away from Old Duryea, where we used to be. And look how convenient. Mummy's right next door to the hospital, the little hospital that we have here on Fire Island, where they have the doctors come from the mainland, and they stay in a beautiful little cottage there. And in exchange for that, they volunteer as our in-town doctor, so to speak. And here's our entryway, and it's quite lovely. It's called Heaven's Gate. You can see the name there. And this is what you walk into. I'm going to give you a quick tour. This is the koi pond, which came with our place, and you can't see the koi, but, well, you could see some water lilies there. There's water lilies there. Oh, look at that one. There were up to like 18 in there buried under the leaves. The leaves are doing really well, and so are the, but we've got to clear out some of that. And it's a wonderful place. I mean, there's our place up there. It's just extraordinary. And here's the back pergola, and there's a barbecue there, and there's our chairs. And so it's quite a complex. Here's some hydrangea that are growing. But when we got in here, there were no pots. So for those of you that follow Mummy's gardening and everything, these are all pots that I brought over, because this was mostly just wooden flower boxes that had fallen on some really hard times. Many of them are disintegrating, and I've been restoring them. And most of them had the classic flower box disease, which is the soil begins to diminish and compact and vanish. And so most of these were like this, with with nothing in them except dead Dusty Miller. So what did Mummy do? I went around, I thought, well, before I start spending money on flowers or anything, I'll put my own pots in places. So that's what I did partly. And then what I did was I cleaned out these, and in every box there was one Dusty Miller that was still alive, which was amazing, because they're supposed to be annuals. I thought they were perennials, but they actually, apparently in our climate, are annuals. So I pulled out the one surviving Dusty Miller, the flower box. These baskets were a catastrophe. They were a mass of rotting cocoa matting and soil that was all gone, and one Dusty Miller alive, and 8 that were dead or whatever. So what I did was I carefully dug out all the Dusty Millers, and I filled one box here with soil, and I planted Dusty Millers there, and they made a comeback. And they're even blooming. And then I dropped a couple of New Guinea impatiens in there, and then I can't remember what that is, but that was growing, and I decided to let it live. Also, up there, well, I'm going to shoot up into the sun. That's not a good thing to do. Up there, where I just was, I put the other half of the surviving Dusty Millers and sprinkled some marigolds in them, because I thought the yellow flowers with the Dusty Miller yellow flowers would be lovely. So those are all survivors. And I lined those boxes with garbage bags with puncture holes in the bottom for drainage, and then filled them with soil, and that's what I did. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these. As you can see, I did these 2 flower baskets, these 2 wall baskets. They were completely dead and derelict, and this one was completely derelict and so bad that it fell off the wall. But what I did, Mummy is queen of, you've always heard me say this, Mummy is queen of repurposing. I hate throwing things away. It's not that I've become a bag lady, but I'm queen of repurposing. Do you see what I've done with these baskets? Okay? The baskets are relined with our broken screen door. You know, you have to have been Sybil Brunchen, and then all my company, the Sybil Brunchen players, all know that I'm the queen of this. We all laugh because we've been so poor all our lives that we've had to save things and repurpose them. So the screen doors here at Heaven's Gate were all punched through and torn. So when they replaced them, I took the screens out and I used them to line the baskets. And then I put cocoa matting back in and soil. And there it is. This one's waiting to be planted. I have to save up my allowance for this next 2 weeks before I can go buy some more flowers because I've been buying so many. But you can see what everything has been below. In an ideal world, I would put garbage bags in here, punch holes in the bottom, and then fill these with soil, as I did over there. See the New Guinea impatiens? You can see the garbage bags right there, right? So that's what I've been doing bit by bit. Actually, I could just board these over and make these seating around my little nook, my little Virginia, who's afraid of Virginia Woolf nook, but whatever. So anyway, that's what I did here. There's screens, look, torn screens, which I put in there, and then I put the cocoa matting in, and then I put flowers in. As to what I've planted, I haven't deadheaded my petunias, so please don't. I thought I would do my Tour-ette after I've deadheaded, but I haven't had a chance. Petunias, where do I stand on them? They are a pain in the ass. I much prefer million bells, or calabrachoa as it's called. They don't need deadheading. They're abundant and lovely and cheerful, and they keep spreading and growing and wonderful and everything and lovely. And if they get leggy, you just trim them back. With petunias, these blossoms last, what, 2 days? And then look. And if you don't deadhead them, they will stop blooming. They'll stop spreading, they'll stop blooming. I am rather in love with straw flowers, though. Yes, they do need deadheading, but they're much more cooperative. That lantana, I don't know what it's doing. It's sulking about something, and it can go straight to hell. Here's a lantana over here that's doing a little bit better. Petunias, again, if I don't deadhead them, they're sulky. I'm going to clean up this straw flower, get rid of the yellow leaves, and, water everything. What's going on over here? You can see where I've dropped my flower pots in these dead flower, these planters. I mean, the soil was all the way down. What was I going to do? I brought all my pots over here. I only lost a few pots in the move from bottoms up. You can see that I've let weeds grow in them. I've been surrendering over the years to letting quote unquote wildflowers grow in with my stuff. So there's some salvias and there's some other things in there, and then fleabane. Fleabane. I love fleabane. When the flowers go, when they pass by, when they wilt, I'll trim them. But I mean, look at them. Who doesn't love them waving in the wind? They're beautiful. It's like having stars twinkling over your flower bed, or snowflakes flurrying over them. It's lovely. It's lovely. So I'm kind of liking it. And you can see my color scheme for the most part is white, purple, and touches of yellow here and there. So that's what I've been doing. Here's an auduratum that's waiting to go in. Brown-eyed Susan, that's, it's wilted for the day, or not wilted, but closed up. That's evolvulus, or dwarf morning glories. Those are lovely, the little blue flowers. Of course, my Montauk daisies. Some of these flowers here, look, little blue-eyed irises. Those are actually, it's called blue-eyed grass. It's not a grass, it's an iris. That little flower is an iris relative, surrounded by wild geraniums. Those were in bloom last week. So this pot is being taken over by wildflowers, which is fine. I'm tempted to dump these pots into this planter, put the garbage bags in, fill it with soil, and then put these wildflower things in there and plant them. And that way next year, this will be full of wildflowers and fleabane. That could be nice. My Montauk daisies, as you know, I've had for like 20 years. I've had my blue-eyed irises for a few, blue-eyed grasses for a few years. Some of these plants have traveled with Mummy. Here's a rose bush I just got from wonderful Lois and Dave. It's being eaten by something just in the last 2 days. I'm going to have to get some insecticidal soap and spray it. I don't know what's going on there, but something suddenly started, and it's just about to bloom too. My wonderful, wonderful scaviola. Every year I have scaviola. It's so beautiful, and it really takes off and hangs wonderfully. What else is over here? Dusty Millers. I'm sold on them, and I would have them back every year. So if these reseed or they perennial themselves, then they're welcome. My heuchera, I've had that heuchera for 20 years. I've had my gay feathers, which is right there, also known as Liatris. I have purple ones and white ones. They've been coming back every year, although they took a hit this year. Look how few stalks there are on them, right? And none on this one. You know what it is? Winter was too mild. It was too mild. They need an ice cold winter. They want cold weather in the winter. So they, instead of thriving after a mild winter, they've struggled. So, and I've left the fleabane, in there. I've left the fleabanes. You know, it's, what are you going to do? Bachelor buttons, they're coming up. It's interesting what survives and what doesn't, you know? I don't know what the name of this is. I can't remember, but if any of you can identify it, please send me a notice and say, oh, mommy, that is such and such. I've had that for 15 years. Every year it comes up. I have to put a little cage around it so it keeps standing, because otherwise it falls over. They get real wilty. And it's funny because they're so cute and wildflowery looking, but I mean, they're not sullen and temperamental like peonies, for instance. Peonies are the Karen of gardens. I mean, they're sulky, they're temperamental, they grow and grow and grow, and then suddenly they make a blossom like a softball, and then they fall over in the mud. I mean, they're emotionally idiots. They're just like emotional idiots. If you're going to grow a flower that big, for heaven's sake, support it properly. What are you doing? You can't do that. It's so self-indulgent. Peonies are so self-indulgent. They require a metal structure around them so that they go, oh, look who's here. Hello, darling. Thank you for joining us. I'm very glad you're here. I couldn't be happier watching bees and butterflies come to my garden. No praying mantis yet this year. I haven't found a praying mantis. Anyway, what was I saying? Well, whatever. It's unimportant. But I love the fleabanes. They're beginning to wilt. I'll deadhead them, and, you know, we'll see what happens. Marigolds, Scaviola, ageratums. I need to trim back those a little bit. And over here, oh, I've had these for 20 years. My wonderful balloon flowers, called balloon flowers because they look like little hot air balloons, and then they explode open. And they love being with marigolds, right? This whole grouping here, very happy, very happy. And over here, look at this, geraniums. Look at the balloon flowers all exploding. There's a wild geranium right there, and there's domestic geraniums, and then some fleabane. I mean, this is not bad. This is not bad. It's a little bit of like a wildflower garden. And of course, Scott, who owned this house years ago, built this wonderful Follies-like staircase, right? It's not only a grand staircase, but then look, it's got these two side areas that are just begging for pots, right? Or girls in like big, you know, Ziegfeld gowns shaped like violins or emeralds or the months of the year or whatever. I mean, hats off, here they come, those beautiful girls. That you look at this, and it's kind of cool, isn't it? I think that the one thing that really sums up my garden this year is this whole area right here. You're not sure what all of this is, but it's kind of fabulous. It's kind of like an overgrown jumble of things that look like they were planted, or maybe they weren't planted, maybe they were abandoned. But I'm sort of surrendering as I get older and older to nature helping the gardening. And maybe I'm here just to help nature. So I tuck my perennials in and my store-bought plants, and then the rest of it is nature helping. And then it becomes butterflies and bees and, you know, my bird feeder, which is strangely empty today. I'm not sure why. There have been days where there have been like 12 birds like yelling at each other, trying to make it onto that bird feeder. And I couldn't be happier watching them, because I love watching them bicker, feed their young, splash around in the bird bath. It's just like, it's so much fun. Anyway, more stuff by the pond. Gazanias. Gazanias, the name is perfect. They are zany. They're kind of like, hey, look at me, did you see me yet? Look at me, wow, look at me. And I do look at them, and I love them. Sadly, they're only annuals, but I love them. And then, of course, my woolly thyme, which is right there. That's thyme. That's real thyme, and it is woolly thyme. And then you've got some more salvias, and you've got that. And then up on the deck, you've got my old, my wonderful. Well, you've got my wonderful planters with the hens and chicks in them. But over on the left, you've got the maiden's tears, and my wonderful Japanese painted fern is up there, and I couldn't love that more. Anyway, so that's it. Here's another one of my Leatrices, and look, one stalk, one stalk. You guys remember how out of a pot like this, which I've had for maybe 15 years, I would have 12 stalks. So again, it's because the winter was not severe enough. They wanted an ice cold winter, the way they get them out in the prairie, out in Wyoming and in Montana and the Dakotas. They're used to surviving extreme heat, extreme cold, but they want that extreme cold in the winter. They want cold in the winter and then heat in the summer. Well, they're getting heat now. And there, of course, are the little dwarf morning glories, which are so cute, but they've folded up for the night. They sort of fold up before it's going to rain, and I think that's what it's going to do. Anyway, I'm glad you joined me. I will show you some more stuff this year. Oh, what's my summer reading? Well, above and beyond John Fricke books. I was just given this by my wonderful friend, Heather. She gave me The Apprentice, My Life in the Kitchen with Jacques Pepin. And this, Run, Do Not Walk. This is a fabulous book, The Secret of Chanel No. 5, by Tilar Mazzeo. I'm telling you, it is a wonderful book about how Chanel No. 5 came about. What an interesting story with so many convolutions. So I'm going to sit and relax in my chair. My motion detector lights are charging. I'm going to hang them up so that we don't break our necks on this staircase. And so this is my garden. And I'm glad you joined me today, and I will talk to you very soon. Darlings, on a day like today, I can't urge you enough to remember that everything you see and smell and taste and touch and hear and hold in your hand and in your heart, it's all borrowed. So be present, be mindful, be grateful. Everything is only borrowed. A toodler, darlings. Enjoy.